they ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
In a bout of delicious irony, Fox News aired the moment that Donald Trump announced he will go through with his 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada, causing the stock market to promptly jump off a cliff. And then what's even more hilarious, they tried to cover up the fact by having the freakish ghoul who's currently the press secretary blame the market crash that just happened today on Joe Biden. Folks, the leopards are eating people's faces, the chickens are coming home to roost, and some other third animal analogy, because this is hilarious. There is nothing that I love more than watching the Republicans fuck around and find out.
We are following breaking news. All three major American stock markets have closed down for the day after President Trump took questions about tariffs going into effect tomorrow against Mexico and Canada, and new tariffs coming against China. CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady joins us now in Studio 57 to talk about this. So, Kelly, let's be specific with what the tariffs are. 25% against all Mexican and Canadian imports, except 10% when it comes to Canadian energy, 10% additional tariffs on Chinese imports. So now let's talk about what the markets did. The Dow down 700, S&P down 100, NASDAQ down almost 500. What's going on?
So if you pull up a chart of the Dow, okay, right around when President Trump started taking questions about tariffs this afternoon, you're going to see this. It went off a cliff. And in fact, we were actually down over 900 points when it comes to the Dow at one point today. So those numbers that you just mentioned, they're definitely extreme, but they aren't as bad as we were.
Now, generally, markets do have a hard time guessing exactly how much the tariff is going to be passed through to the customer. For example, a 10% tariff on shoes from China would raise their sticker price 4% or so, but on wine or olive oil from Italy, almost 10%. So it really is a question, the answer to which changes based on the item that we're talking about. But one thing is for sure, no matter what, the tariffs will get passed on to the consumer through a price increase of some percent. The only person denying that obvious fact about how tariffs work is the person imposing the tariffs.
Mr. President, the Europeans... Yeah, please. On tariffs, you just said with China... Who are you with? I'm with The Independent. Oh, that's good. It's on tariffs. You just said with China... Thank you. We charge them as in we charge China, but the tariffs are paid eventually by American importers and consumers.
No, they're not. No, I think they're paid for by the country. But, you know, look, we can get into that. I put a lot of tariffs on in my first term, and we made tremendous amounts of progress because of those tariffs.
No, they didn't. This is from taxfoundation.org. The first Trump administration imposed tariffs on thousands of products valued at approximately $380 billion in 2018 and 19, amounting to one of the largest tax increases in decades. We estimate that the trade war tariffs imposed by Trump and retained by Biden reduce long-run GDP by 0.2%, stock capital by 0.1%, and unemployment by 142,000 full-time jobs.
Now, why? Markets have been trying to price in this question of tariffs, and I think what we heard today was President Trump saying, look, this is going to happen at 12:01. A lot of investors, a lot of companies were hoping, is this a negotiation tactic? Are we going to see an 11th hour deal like we saw a month ago, right? This was supposed to go back into effect at the beginning of February. But if you look particularly at the auto sector, Ford, GM, like Stellantis, they were all down significantly, over 2 to 3%, because these are the companies that have big plants in Mexico and Canada, and they're going to feel this as well as some of the retailers the most.
And mind you, the tariffs from the first term were targeted, and they were at 10%. These are 25% blanket tariffs on all items coming from both Mexico and Canada. This tariff, if Trump doesn't chicken out at the last second again, will be a massive tax increase on everyday Americans. And to make matters even worse, estimates of the GDP have real GDP growth in Q1 of 2025 at negative 2.8%. Just 4 weeks ago, it was around 3.8%. Positive 3.8%, by the way. Negative 2.8% means that we're in a recession. Now, this is a prediction from Atlanta Fed, but if these numbers hold true, in addition to the stock market continuing to tank, then we really might have seen the fastest and dumbest self-destruction any country has ever done to its own economy. But of course, here's Caroline Leavitt's crispy ass on Fox News trying to go along with the psychotic belief that Biden is somehow responsible for the market crashing.
Last one. What's left of the Biden economy is slumping so badly. It's just slumping. This is the legacy of the Biden economy. Will we hear? I want you to tell me, Caroline Levitt. I want you to say, Larry, we're going to have lots of talk about tax cuts and deregulation and energy production and economic growth in the State of the Union message tomorrow. Upbeat, I used to call it growthier, Caroline. We're going to have a growthier speech tomorrow to keep those animal spirits going. Tell me it's all true.
It's all true, Larry. I can confirm the president is going to talk about his economic agenda. And truly, this administration is working around the clock to bring down the cost of living for the American people, to deregulate the regulations that Joe Biden put on every industry across the board. And, you know, tax cuts are a huge priority for this president, and he'll be talking directly to Congress about that tomorrow night.
All right, great stuff. You're really terrific. Caroline.
Only these pudding-brained knuckle-draggers could believe that Biden is somehow responsible for this. Trump imposes tariffs, market crashes. Damn you, Biden. Insane. I think Caroline Levitt's head has more filler in it than brain matter. And the real gag of all of this is that they don't see that red states and Republicans are going to get hit harder than the rest of us. Now, all of us Americans are going down with this ship, don't get me wrong, but here's the likely next Prime Minister of Canada saying exactly what she's going to do to make it difficult specifically on Trump and Elon Musk.
Prime Minister of Canada. Because right now, we Canadians have to stand up and fight for our country. If the tariffs are imposed, as Prime Minister, I will fight back with dollar for dollar retaliatory tariffs. And our retaliation is going to be surgically targeted to create the maximum pressure on the White House to stop what the Wall Street Journal has described quite rightly as the dumbest trade war in history. An example of a measure that I will put in place as Prime Minister is 100% tariffs on Teslas. I think that should get some attention in the White House. Your grocery prices are going to go up because you know what you need to grow food in the United States? You need fertilizer. And 80% of it comes from Canada, and you're going to put a 25% tax on it? I mean, the Wall Street Journal is right. This is dumb. This is utterly self-mutilating, and our retaliation is going to make it worse because we can't stand for these attacks on our economy.
I'm absolutely sure that'll get some attention from our not-so-shadow president, Elon Musk. You know the old American motto, we must protect the investor's bottom line. I'm just glad she quoted the Wall Street Journal and correctly called this for what it is, the dumbest trade war in history. The only thing we can do now is buckle up, keep an eye on your 401ks, and hope Trump just wimps out like he did last time. I'm Tony Hinderman with Really American, and I'll catch you next time.